If you turn on primetime news right now, you're probably still gonna hear about what's going on in Ukraine,
Ukraine's
The Ukraine.
or what's going on in Gaza,
Gaza City.
Gaza City.
but you're likely never gonna hear about anything to the fact that there's one country that has witnessed the execution of more Christians than any other countries around the world combined together. That country is Nigeria. You may have seen Maher recently talked about this, and it sparked a lot of online reactions. But I want you to picture 7,000 graves right now, because that's the number of Christians who've been killed in Nigeria this year only just for their faith, just for going to church to worship services. Today I want to talk about these events taking place in Nigeria, targeted towards Christians from a very unique angle. And I hope you'll wait until the end of the video, and if you get any value from this video, please click the subscribe button and share it within your network. You know why? Because mainstream media won't talk about it. Let's get into it. Two major organizations have been talking about this issue, documenting the killings in Nigeria, is Open Doors and the International Society for Civil Liberties. They've documented the chilling data about these killings. From 2009 to April 2023, over 52,000 Christians have been recorded killed for their faith in Nigeria, just for going to church, just for attending worship services. In the year 2022 alone, there is about 5,000 Christians who have been massacred in Nigeria for their faith. And in the first 100 days of 2023, more than 1,000 Christians have already fallen in Nigeria just for their faith. Last year, 2024, in total, 70% of every Christians killed for their faith globally died inside Nigeria. Put some numbers to it. That is 3,100 souls out of the 4,400 that died globally for their Christian faith. Now, what about in 2025? That number has steadily grown to 7,000 Christian deaths in Nigeria. Can you even imagine that for a second? It's not just a number, it's a mid-sized stadium that has been completely erased. The vibrant lives of people that have been replaced by silent earth just within the first 225 days of 2025. And every single body that you saw that went under the red soil in Nigeria for their faith were all Christians. Now, what about the churches? The schools, the communities, they too have not been spared. There's a lot of data about that as well. Over 19,000 churches have been torched so far in the same span of time, 2009 until 2023. Churches, not just damaged, but utterly destroyed. And over 1,100 entire villages have been emptied. Their communities have been scattered. And over 2,200 Christian schools have been attacked, burned, or destroyed within the same time span. Also, a staggering 7,800 people have been abducted. Thousands of Christians who've been taken into captivity by Boko Haram, by ISWAP, which is the ISIS arm in West Africa, and the radical Fulani herdsmen in Nigeria as well. Now, you do the simple math, that's 32 corpses a day, every single day, that is going into their early graves in Nigeria for their Christian faith. I want you to let that grim reality sink in for a moment, because global news media often casually label these incidences as clashes. It's an insult, in my opinion, to the dead, and a profound misrepresentation of the truth of the matter going on in Nigeria. But maybe we need to start calling it for what it is unequivocally. It's a faith-based extermination with a deliberate press blackout behind the issues. So why do we hear so little about it? Why is the world more tuned to pictures of the rubbles in Ukraine or in Gaza than the burned churches in Benue, in Kaduna, in Plateau, in Nigeria? Why don't we have a free Nigeria protest like we have the free Palestine ones around here in Canada, in the US, and even across the West? Think about the deliberate media silence for a moment, because there's a whole lot going on in Nigeria. Let me give you instances. Palm Sunday 2025, which is a major day in the Christian faith, is a day of hope at the Resurrection Day, and a major worship event that saw over 50 worshippers that were cut down in the middle of worship services in Nigeria. Imagine that, lifting up your hands, and the next thing you hear is gunshots and 50 people died. CNN ran the story, yes, but it's telling that they ran the story without ever uttering the word Palm Sunday. Why? It's a crucial detail in my opinion. Now, similarly, Christmas of 2023 witnessed another coordinated strike that left 200 innocent Nigerians burned under pews during the most important festive celebration in the year that was turned into their mass graves. They were burned in the pews in their churches. Yet you have prominent international broadcasters who choose to blame these on climate pressure on grazing routes for the Fulani herdsmen, or it's blamed on climate change. Can you imagine that? Climate change. Even NPR, when reporting on attacks inside churches, would frame the violence as part of a broader pastoral conflict that is going on, carefully avoiding the clear nature of the sectarian war going on in Nigeria. When you refuse to name the holiday, when you deliberately obscure the religious context in this matter, you don't just misreport, you actively erase the motive behind the attacks. Mind you, the attackers are not hiding their motive. Boko Haram's press release literally declared their intention to eliminate the infidels, meaning the Christians. But Western news media seem to suddenly forget the word of religion when they report these cases that come out of Nigeria. This isn't just poor journalism. Can't name the clear religious motivation behind these issues, you will never, ever be able to admit the genocide that is unfolding over the Christian faith in Nigeria. I could blame international news forever, but what about the local news in Nigeria? Even the local news media in Nigeria often give a few sentences to these incidences. You hear things like, yet another attack in Plateau State in Nigeria where several Christians are being killed. Then tomorrow's news is about politics, it's about football scandal, it's Chelsea versus Man U, it's about the Premier League, it's about the elections. What about the number of deaths? The stories of mothers, the children, the pastors. These news are often not followed up at all. They're hardly investigated. There's no context about the killings. Look up the news yourself. You will hardly find anyone asking what is going on, what's going on with our own people. But let me take you back a few chapters here and revisit the genesis of this religious crisis going on, which is the part of the news that the media often ignores. That's Boko Haram. Boko Haram was founded in early 2000s by Muhammad Yusuf in Maiduguri, Nigeria. His aim was to protest what he saw as a moral decay that was caused by foreign influence on the Nigerian culture. He wanted schools closed to girls. He wanted to attack Western education. Implicitly, Boko Haram means Boko Haram. It means the Western system of education is haram in his opinion. But it was after 2009 when Yusuf was killed by police that everything darkened actually. And I can talk about the way the Nigerian police killed him, which I think was very barbaric. You look it up yourself. Then Shekau took over post 2009 and they started bombing churches, mass kidnappings. You would remember the world saw Chibok in 2014, Bring Back Our Girls movement, the hashtags, the protest for a moment was there, the attention was there, the hashtag was all over the place. Prominent figures, even our dear American First Lady at the time has the poster on, free, bring back our girls. But after the hashtag faded, we got silence. Schools were blown up, priests and pastors were murdered, churches were razed, villages were emptied, lives were stolen, mothers were left with no heads of household, children became orphans. And even those who survived, the memories still haunt them till date, till forever. I actually ask this, how do you kidnap almost 300 girls and you leave no traces whatsoever for the police investigation? How is that possible? Do you even feed those kids? Do they need some daily supplies that you have to buy from a local market somewhere? How hard is it to investigate or trace such if any military or police is serious about investigating it? But guess what? Since Bill Maher first discussed this topic just a few weeks ago, the first people to dismiss the massacre is who? Do you want to take a guess? Sorry, It's not the media, it's the Nigerian government itself. That's the real irony of this matter. And again, Western media does not like to talk about this because it's not politically correct. The government was the first to dismiss this news. The only glimmer of hope that is left for the people dismisses the extent of these massacres. What about those kidnapped? What about the girls, the pastors, the Christian faithfuls who were killed in cold blood during worship services as they lifted up their hands in their churches? What about their stories, the stories of teenage girls that have been captured as sex slaves by Boko Haram, by ISWAP, by Fulani herdsmen? What about the forced conversions? What about the fear that people constantly live with in their communities? Do these people get justice? And here's something that cuts even deeper. In some places, abductors have been actually pardoned. You hear me right. Yes, abductors were pardoned by the government. The same people who carried out kidnappings, the same people who attacked communities and local villages were released and reintegrated back into society. So you'd ask yourself, who decides that forgiveness comes before justice in this case? Who decided that perpetrators would walk free while their victims remain scared, carrying the scars for the rest of their lives? It would be easy to lay the blame on militant groups, for sure. Boko Haram, ISWAP, radical Fulani herdsmen, they bear enormous responsibilities for these attacks. But what about the government? What about the law enforcement? What about security services who sometimes fail to protect, or even worse, are accused of being complicit to these crimes? What about us, media, podcast, both local and international media? Are we not also complicit and silenced to these crimes? So yes, we can blame CNN or blame the BBC, but maybe Nigeria itself has become a captive to its corrupt leaders. The same leaders who compromise the military with a shortage of weapons, the military that is internally compromised, laying ambush alongside terrorists for its own men in uniform. You heard me right. The same military that was going to execute over 50 soldiers who raised alarms about these issues just a few years ago. Those are the real people to blame for these wars in Nigeria. When I say all these as a Nigerian-born and bred, I grew up hearing hymns on Sundays. I walked past church buildings every week, every Sunday. I saw mothers praying in churches, praying on the street. I saw believers serving their communities without getting paid. I saw faith in its most humble, the most courageous, and it's beautiful to behold. But I also saw fear. I saw villages that were emptied in northern Nigeria. I saw pastors silenced, children afraid to go to school. I saw headlines, yes, but just headlines about political killings, not the stories in depth, not portraits of the perpetrators of the crimes, not deep media engagement, because the local media itself is deeply afraid for their lives to cover these stories. And you heard me right. I lived through it for many years growing up in Nigeria. So I ask you, why did the world focus on Christian suffering here fade so quickly after the Chibok girls were captured a few years ago? Why are thousands killed every year in Christian villages, yet they don't get the same global outrage as the bombings going on in the Middle East or in Europe right now? Why does international law or media tend to treat herdsmen attacks as natural disasters, blaming it on climate change or natural disasters, not as religiously provoked persecutions? What responsibilities do our leaders bear, both locally, nationally, and even international organizations, for the safety of those who attend church in Nigeria? Now, this one is very controversial, but I say it for what it is anyways. What responsibility does the West, especially the US, bear in endorsing and enthroning these weak and corrupt leaders around the world, including Nigeria? And you heard me right. Why was Obama's campaign manager in Nigeria helping to shape election outcomes in 2014 and to enthrone a corrupt government? They knew that quite well, but I will leave it at that. I don't have a pool behind my house to get drowned. What role do we all play as listeners, as viewers, as citizens, As people of faith, especially the people of the Christian faith, you know what I find the most incredible about the Christian faith is this. It's born in persecution. Since way back the first church. It thrives under pressure. And yet in all its dark moments, and even in this kind of darkness that Nigeria is going through, something remarkable happens and continues to happen. The faith doesn't die in smear campaigns or under threats of death. It actually multiplies because martyrdom is the foundation of the Christian faith. People are still going to church in Nigeria, mind you, even in this part of Nigeria that is the most chaotic, where killings are happening daily. They still lift their hands and sing worship songs. They still go to church on Sundays. Their children still go to churches on Sundays. They're not asking if the church building has air conditioning or if the pews are cushioned like my North American friends would ask. They're not checking Google reviews about the kids' ministry, about the stage lighting, about the quality of their coffee after service, or the church vibes generally. And I know there is a humanitarian aspect to these stories that I covered this time, but I choose to focus on the religious and political aspects this time. I'm not asking for easy answers. I am asking for attention to the story, for awareness, for a moral urgency about this issue. Because when we allow one death to be invincible, we weaken the value of every life. And in the coming episodes on this channel, I'll talk to pastors who survived this chaos and the attacks. I'll talk to scholars who've studied these issues, activists who tried to rescue the forgotten in this part of the world. I'll try my best to bring stories out of the shadows from these issues going on in Nigeria. And if you know anyone who is quite knowledgeable, who's able to also articulate these issues, especially from that part of the world, or doing some research about this around the world, would you please suggest in the comment section who to invite to the podcast? Let me know what you think about this issue in the comment section, especially if you're from that part of the world. Well, I'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye.